And we're live. It's time to start today's Tech at Scale. Another coffee and dev. It's Friday. Get your coffee. Today is going to be an interesting episode because we are talking about better development processes, um, which is basically from Elon Musk's Starbase tour video that he gave recently. And I just kind of stole what he talked about, and he talks about it in a very precise order and how SpaceX is able to achieve their enormous effort with great sense of urgency. And I thought they really resonated with me. And let's just dive into it. So, first, Elon says that the first thing in his step process to having a better development process or just better teams in general is you have to start with making the requirements less dumb. Um, or actually, I think it's actually make requirements more dumb. I think it's more dumb. Yeah, because I think what you want is you want to make it as simple as possible. So the most common mistake he said that he saw was smart engineers really focus in on optimizing first. They think, okay, we need to find a way to do this the most efficient way, the most optimal way. And the irony is that why optimize something that might not even exist, right? Or maybe why optimize the thing that's not going to make like match your requirements? So you need to find a way to make your requirements um, less dumb and more simple, or I guess more dumb and more simple. And he mentioned that he did this actually with the Falcon rocket at SpaceX. Is instead of optimizing their scenario with their requirements, was they were looking at the requirements of, okay, we need to get this rocket into space, um, and then they had a door on the front, or the capsule of the rocket, and it's like, we're not putting people in this rocket right now. So just remove the door. Just like, we don't need a door. The requirements are to get to orbit and to space, not to put someone in it right now and to get them to space. So just make it more dumb, make it more simple. Um, and he also talks about like you have to be very careful because if someone who's very smart made these requirements, they've probably made assumptions based off of their understanding. And you have to really be able to dive into those requirements when they're really smart, because they're going to be able to argue it out and justify whatever requirements they've set. But sometimes those requirements are just artificial. They think it's a requirement. And you have to do these process in order, is what he says. So next thing is he talks about like you have to try really, really hard to delete the steps or the process. So you have to get rid of your in case scenarios. You have to run at like these really tight margins. Don't hedge your bets. And his argument is if you're not adding back in 10% of the stuff that you're deleting, then you're not being aggressive enough. Like, so when you're deleting things, if you're not actually adding anything back that you're deleting, you're not being aggressive enough. We're being as cautious and safe. And we all have done this. Is you'll why do we deploy this way? Well, that's always been the way we do it. Yeah, but why? And you have to dive deeper, and you have to really get to the point of like, oh, because well, we used to have this other tool here that we call this thing, and we'd have to set up this pre-pod, and like this Docker container would have to exist before that. Yeah, but do we need that? And you're like, no, probably because we've removed the first thing that requires all that stuff. Then delete it. And if you need it, add it back. You have to minimize the process. Everything that you add in between is a bottleneck or a potential bottleneck. It burdens you with technical debt down the road. So you have to delete the steps and process as you're going. The next thing he says is, now we're at the point where we can optimize. So now you go and you find, okay, what is the most optimal way to actually be able to do this? And only do this once the other things are kind of done. And this is just development. Like, this is where I don't need to give you any secret sauce, because you're dev, you know how to optimize. You're going to go find ways to optimize. You're going to reduce code. You're going to have it more efficient. But the thing is, this is step 3, definitely not step 1. So at that point, he says, great, now that you've done everything else, now you accelerate your cycle time, which essentially just means now is the point where you go faster. The reason why you can't go faster at any other stages is if you're digging your grave, you don't want to dig your grave faster, right? Sunk cost fallacy is a thing. You get all this way going as fast as possible, and you're like, okay, we have a deadline, like, just we gotta go, and then you realize you didn't have to do half that stuff. You could have deleted it. Like, why are we going faster on all these requirements when 5 of these requirements could just be gone? But once we get here, we've already gone through our requirements. We've already removed everything that we possibly could remove. We've added back the things we need. And now we've optimized that process. So now we can just go as fast as possible. So this is where we would start adding on as many people as possible. We'd just be like, all right, we got the deadline. Let's go. And your urgency. And he talks about, now is the spot where you actually find your automation. Before that, you could have done everything by hand and not been in any issues, because you could spend all this time automating. You're like, why are we doing this manual? Why don't we automate this? What happens if that's a process that we actually end up deleting? What happens if through our simple requirements of making them just simply more dumb, then we realize we don't even need that. We spent all this time optimizing X, but we don't even need it. Delete, removed. So he actually gives a really funny example in the video that he does on YouTube, which is called Starbase Tour. Well, it's someone doing a tour and interviewing it, but it's Starbase Tour Part 1. And he talks about the on Tesla, they have these battery packs, and they need to put these basically mats around the battery packs. And he's sleeping on like the factory floor trying to figure out this stuff. And he did it in reverse. So he actually started at step 5 all the way to step 1. And he had robots do it. They had glue to hold in the thing of where it should go. So they optimized to find the most fastest way the robot could put these mats in. More robots, and like, everything you could think of. The shortest route, he was optimizing. And then finally you get down to the spot where he's like, man, what, this thing is killing us. So he wanted to know what the mats are for, right? And he goes to the battery safety team and he's like, what are these mats for? And they're like, they're for noise and vibration. And he's like, but you're the battery team. And they're like, yeah, but that's not us. That's the noise and vibration team. So then he goes to that department that's responsible for the noise and vibration. And he's like, hey, why do we have these battery mats? And they say, oh, it's for battery safety. So you actually have 2 departments that have now told each other, like, been linked, saying that each other is the requirement. And this is why you need to really dumb down your requirements and have like really simple requirements and delete processes that don't make sense. So what happened was, he said, okay, if we don't need it for battery safety and their thing is just for noise and vibration, let's try it with and without the mats on top of these batteries. So he got 2 Teslas, one with it and one without it, and he couldn't tell the difference from the vibration and noise standpoint. So they said, just get rid of it, just delete it. So here's a guy who spent all this time sleeping on the factory floor trying to optimize, automate, optimize, and accelerate the process, and ends up realizing it's not even needed. We can just remove it. If the requirements had been upfront, just more simple on why the mats need to exist in the first place, then they wouldn't have been in there. And that brings me ultimately to the thing that I think was really important on, so that's his 5-step process, but the really important takeaway I thought was requirements must come from a name and not a department. Because what happens is the battery team will say it's the vibration team, the vibration team will say it's the battery team. And some of these requirements might be because it used to be an intern in that team, it's someone who doesn't work in the company. Like you go to the battery team and they're like, oh, we need to have it this way because the vibration team says that, or the vibration department says that. But vibration department might not even agree with that anymore. The people who used to say that might not even work at the company. So you need a name. If you have a name, you can say, we need this because John says so. And now you know exactly who to go talk to. John, why do we need this? And John, if John says, I never said that, or we don't need that, great. End of conversation. We move on. A department, though, you're going to need to get this democracy of agreement to come together and say, like, our department view is blah. Yeah, but not everyone in the department probably shares that view. So who is the person there that's actually saying X? Because that is the person who needs to own this and continue this moving forward. If they are not willing to own it, then they shouldn't have a say. And then if the department itself doesn't agree because that's the only person that had that say, then you get rid of it. So that's Tech at Scale today. I hope you enjoy your weekend. I hope that Elon's wisdom has sunk into your wonderful mind and that you take this away to have a better development process and a better team. Until next time, on Monday, unless you're going to the Tech at Scale fireside chats that I do, and that is on Sunday. We did one two last week and the week before that, and you can find them on the YouTube channel. But anyways, I'll leave you with that. Till next time, adios.